Okay guys, so the next step is going to be coding the Reindeer sprite. So to begin, we're going to click on the yellow events tab. And we're going to use when green flag clicked. Next, we're going to go into looks and add a hide. And I will also suggest taking out a second one. We're going to go back to the yellow events tab and we're going to use when I receive and put it right on top of the hide. We're going to click on the info or whatever you have on the box. We're going to type in a new message and we're going to use game over. Next, we're going to use another when I receive, and we're going to use a new message, and we're going to call this play so we can begin our game. Underneath the when I receive, we're going to go inside of control, and we're going to use a forever. Inside of the forever, we're going to put in an if then. And inside of the if then, we're going to add a wait until. Next, we're going to go to sensing. And we're going to add touching on the if then. And we're going to change this to present. Next, we're going to go to the yellow events tab and we're going to add a broadcast above the wait until. And we're going to change this by making a new message and we're going to put point. Inside of the wait until, we're going to go into operator and we're going to add a not. And we're going to be adding another touching present, but since we already have it over here, we're just going to right click, duplicate, and add it onto the not. The next thing we're going to go ahead and do is create the keys in order to move our player around. So we're going to go back to the yellow events tab. We're going to use when I receive info. And we're going to change this to play. Next, we're going to go inside the blue motions tab and we're going to add a point in direction 90. Then we're going to go into looks and we're going to go ahead and show and add it on the correct layer. So we're going to add a go to front layer and then we're going to add a go backward 2 layers. We're going to go into our variable tab and we're going to add 2 set blocks. The first one is going to be coordinate 2 and the next one is going to be coordinate 1. Then we're going to go inside the blue motions tab and we're going to add a go to X and Y. X is going to be -11, Y is going to be -32. Okay. Next, we're going to go into control and we're going to add a forever. Okay. And then we're going to add 2 if-thens, one inside of the other. So the first if-then inside of the forever, and then the next if-then inside of the other if-then. Next, inside of the diamond shape of the first if-then, we're going to go into operators. And we're going to use the less than symbol. We're making the 50 a 1. And the empty bubble, we're going to go into our variable, and we're going to make this coordinate 1. So once you have that, we're going to go ahead and go into the if-then. We're going to go into operators and use an OR. So we're going to give everyone the opportunity to either use the regular arrow keys or the WASD key, whichever they're more comfortable with. So we're going to click now onto our sensing. And we're going to use key space pressed for each of them. So I'm going to add one to one side, duplicate and add it to the other. I'm going to go ahead and stop this. We're going to make the first one the up arrow. And we're going to make the second one the W key. Okay. Now that we have that, inside of the if then, we're going to go into variable and add a sets block. And we're going to go ahead and set our Santa speed to 17.5. Then underneath the set, we're going to go into control and add a repeat 10. And we're going to change the 10 to a 8.25. Let me see if I can maybe copy this number and add it here. Okay, so let's put this 8.25. So for whatever reason, for me, I wasn't able to add the point. So if you need to, you can always copy the set Santa speed 17.5. So you can just click on it. You can Control C to copy, then go on to the repeat and then Control V to paste it. And then you can add in the numbers if you're having issues like I did adding the period. So once that is done, we're going to go ahead and inside of the repeat, we're going to go into motion. And we're going to add a change Y by, since our Y is what allows us to move up and down. And the 10, we're going to go ahead and go into variable and use the Santa speed bubble inside of it. Then still inside of our variable, underneath the change Y, we're going to add a change block. We're going to change Santa speed by -2. And then underneath the repeat, we're going to add another change block. We're going to change our coordinate 1 by 1. So now this is actually going to be used repeatedly for the other ones, so we can do it for all other keys. So instead of worrying about having to recopy everything, we're going to make this just a little bit easier and do it that way. So you'll just have to be very careful in the order in which you're putting it. So if I hover over the very first if, I'm going to right click and duplicate it, and that copies everything for me. I'm going to put it all the way below. So just be careful where you're putting it. And now we're going to do a couple of changes. So the first thing is this coordinate 1, we're going to go ahead and change this. So I'm just going to pop this out. I'm going to take out my variable bubble. And then I'm going to remove this operator symbol and go back into operators. And we're going to use greater than this time. On the empty bubble, we're going to put back the coordinate 1. And then on the 50, we're going to make this -1. Now for the up arrow pressed and W, we're going to change it to down arrow. And the W, we're going to change to the S key. Okay. Next, this set Santa speed, we're going to make it negative since we're going to be moving it down. So -17.5. And then we're going to change the Santa speed instead of -2. We're going to change this to 2. And then our coordinate 1, we're going to change this to -1. So that's all we're going to do for that one. Now we're going to do the same process. We're going to go ahead and right click on the first if then. We're going to duplicate and make sure we're putting it all the way at the bottom. And now we're going to go ahead and take out the entire thing. And we can just go ahead and delete this entirely because we're going to do something different for this one. So we're going to go into our operators and we're going to use our less than symbol. The 50 is going to be a 1. And now the empty bubble is going to be our coordinate 2. Okay. We're going to change the down arrow to our right arrow. And our S to our D. Then we're going to go ahead and make this set to a positive 17.5. This time around, this change Y by, we're going to have to change. So we're going to take this out. I'm going to put back the change Santa speed. I'm going to take out the Santa speed bubble. And we're going to delete this motion block and go back into the blue motions tab and add a change X by inside of the repeat on top of the change. And we're going to add this variable back. Since we're doing the right and left key now, we're going to have to change the X. So that's why we have to swap this out. The change to 2, we're going to change this to -2. And we just want to make sure that this coordinate 1 is coordinate 2. And this -1 is a 1. Next, we're going to go ahead and do the very last one. So again, at the very first if, we're going to go ahead and duplicate this, add it to the bottom. So now we're going to take out the operator symbol, pull out our variable, delete this operator. We're going to go back to the operator and use greater than. The 50 is going to be a -1. And the empty bubble is going to be our coordinate 2. Our right arrow will be changed to left arrow. And our D is going to be changed to A. Our Santa speed, we're going to change this to a -17.5. But we're also going to add one more thing just to make sure it's facing the correct side. So on top of the Santa speed, we're going to go inside of our blue motions tab. And we're going to add a point in direction 90 here. Next, we're going to go ahead and change this to a 2. The change Santa speed inside of the repeat. And then the change coordinate 2 by 1, we're going to change this to -1. And then to make sure it has the correct costume that we have, right on the very bottom of this last bar that has the white arrow pointing up, in between these two lines, we're going to go into looks, and we're going to add a switch costume to. And we're just going to go ahead to switch it to the name of the one that we have. So I'm just going to double check. For my costume is Reindeer with a lowercase r. So that's why I want to change it to. And this is just to make sure it has the correct costume being used. After you're done with that, you're pretty much all set with your player, and then you can move on to the next step.